So now that I've played 6 of the 9 total launch maps in Battlefield 6 with the recent preview of Operation Firestorm and Mirak Valley, I thought I would bring back a fun little series that I used to do back in the day, which is ranking all of the maps, and I'll potentially do this for all of the weapons and stuff in the future as well. Not only is it a fun type of video to do because usually the comment section just absolutely roasts me and also roasts each other, it's just a fun little debate to have, but also because a lot of you guys wouldn't have played Firestorm and Mirak Valley, but you have played the other 4, I thought it would also be kind of informational to show you guys where those maps actually stack up against the maps that you would have played in the open beta. So we're not going to waste any time. As you can see here, I have made a tier list on the Tier Maker website, and I'll continue to add to this in the future. Probably every time we get a new map, I might update this if you guys do enjoy this type of content. And as you can see, we've got the 6 maps to choose from down the bottom here. I haven't really changed the actual tiers. If you guys have any recommendations for what you want to see, let me know down below. But without wasting any time, we're going to get stuck right into it, and it's only just now dawning on me as I'm looking at this list that this is actually going to be very hard because I think I like all of these maps, which is actually very rare for Battlefield, especially in the last 3 games essentially. I have had a lot of maps that I haven't liked, even in Battlefield 1, which is one of my favorites of the franchise. There's a lot of maps in that game that I didn't love. So this might be really tough, and obviously it's a pretty hard sample size too. There's only 6, so this isn't all of the maps in the game, but I'm just going to go through in the order left to right rather than starting at the best ones, just because I feel like that makes it a little bit harder to do. So starting off with Siege of Cairo, this is definitely one of my favorite maps. I'm not too sure it would quite go here. This like tier right here, I would consider this to be like, we're talking GOAT levels here in terms of in 10 years, we'll be looking back at those maps like, yeah, that map is absolutely GOATed. I think it could potentially end there, but I almost think I need to see the rest of the maps in the game at launch, and then maybe I can make that decision. But I think for now, I would probably put it in the A tier. It almost needs a tier in between, like right here, that I can put it, because it's, I don't know, it feels a little bit low to have it in the A tier, but I don't know, man. All of the gameplay that I've experienced on this map, I've never really had like bad games where I just go, oh man, this map's really annoying. There's obviously a few tough games and stuff here and there, but for the most part, even when you lose, it's just a fun map. I just think that the close quarters element to it and just the overall vibe of this map is awesome in my opinion. This is the type of gritty map that we were crying out for in 2042, and they just never really delivered on it. So I love this map. Especially out of all of these maps, I think this is probably the best like setting for a map for me in terms of if we're just talking aesthetically. This is probably number 1 on the list, honestly. But like I said, I think for now I'll put it in the A tier just to be safe, and I might come and adjust these at the end of the video as well. Now, moving on, we've gone from one of the best maps to a map that I don't know if this is a hot take, but I don't love this map. Now, compared to Battlefield 5 and 2042 maps, I would take this over nearly all of those maps. So it's not that this is a bad map and that I don't like it. It's more in comparison to the rest of these. I think this is one of the weaker maps personally. And I guess the thing to consider with the list too is that even if I put something D tier, I don't necessarily think this is bad. A D tier map in this game, like I said, is probably A tier or something on 2042. So for me, this definitely goes fairly low down. I think I'm going to go C. I feel like D feels too harsh. It almost feels like in comparison to the other maps, it feels like a D, but in reality, if we look at all of the Battlefield maps ever made, I wouldn't have it as low as a D, I don't think. So I think I'd put it there. For me, this map just does feel like it's got a weird flow to it. I think that's the issue I have. I think the setting and stuff is cool. I think having a map set in New York is actually awesome. So that's not really the issue. And I don't think it's, again, it's not a bad map. It's just got a strange flow to it. It doesn't feel like a Battlefield map, I think, is my concern with it. Weirdly, on Breakthrough, I don't mind it, but I think for Conquest, I'm not the biggest fan of it, which is weird because it's got no vehicles, and I'm one of those people who I don't really love vehicles. I think they have a place in Battlefield. I wouldn't want them removed, but I also kind of get annoyed by vehicles. And so you'd think I'd love this map, but weirdly, I don't know, I just never fell in love with it. Even the LA playtest, like the first time I played this map, I could already tell, oh, hang on, I don't think I love this map. And yeah, I'm not really sure what it is just yet. Maybe in future updates of this, I'll have a better understanding once the game actually launches. But yeah, for now, I think this goes C tier. Feel free to roast me in the comments. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with that because from what I've seen, people seem to love this map. So let me know down below. I got a feeling that might be a bit of a hot take. Now, moving on, we have got Operation Firestorm, and it kind of goes without saying, this map, I went through a weird stage after just playing it where I kind of went, okay, this isn't as good as I remembered it to be. And now that it's been a few days since I've played it, I disagree with that statement. I think this map is in that sort of GOAT tier of Battlefield maps. It's still not quite as good as I remembered it to be, I think, just because the nostalgia does cloud your vision a little bit, but I definitely still think this is probably going to be the best map in the game at launch, or at least close to it anyway. I do think Cairo potentially pushes it because it's a bit more like, there's a lot more action, I guess. But man, it felt good being back on Firestorm, and then not only playing it myself, but I watched a bunch of other creators and their gameplay, and it made me go, okay, this map is actually fantastic. So big fan of Operation Firestorm. I think they've also done a really good job of like converting it to Battlefield 6, where it looks good, and it also does play just slightly different in terms of there's more cover. It's just a slightly better layout, even though the actual layout is pretty much identical. But yeah, I love it. And I think also the vibe of this map, the setting and all the smoke in the background and stuff, it's, yeah, absolutely goated map in my opinion. And so to me, that belongs in the S tier, and it's probably going to be the only one that makes it to the S tier, if I'm honest. Now moving on, we have got Iranian Offensive, and this one I did really enjoy. This weirdly at first I didn't love it. It kind of took a while to grow on me in the beta. I think especially at the LA playtest as well, it just never hooked me in. But I think as I sort of learned the map a little bit more and learned the high traffic areas and stuff like that, it did start to grow on me. It's a weird map where it's not actually that small, but it feels very small, and I kind of like that about it. And so I'm sort of eyeing up these two spots here. I feel like A tier is maybe a little bit high, so I think I'll put it in the B tier. It's a good map, and I think it's definitely got some of the best showcases of destruction. And I would also say across all of the modes, it's probably even higher than this, because I'm kind of mostly basing these on Conquest just because that's the mode that I play the most. But I really like this on all of the modes, even like Domination and those smaller modes that I don't think I've really played them at launch. I'm more of a big mode player, but even those modes felt really good on this. So yeah, it could almost go here, I think, but I'd probably leave it there for now. And yeah, B tier is still very good. Keep in mind, like I said, none of these maps are really bad in my opinion. So probably seems a bit low compared to the rest, but they're all fairly decent in my opinion. Now moving on, we've got a bit of a tough one in Liberation Peak. This is tough, because I kind of have like varying opinions on it based on the game that I've just played on it. There's some games where I just like have a really good game and it plays well, and there's no like annoying snipers all over the place and stuff. And honestly, a good game on Liberation Peak, I'd probably put it up here. And yet there are some games where there's just snipers everywhere, and maybe one team's like dominating the match or whatever. That goes for Conquest and Breakthrough, where sometimes that first phase in Breakthrough is just literally impossible to get through. And then same for Conquest, if you just get the C flag early, it can be really hard to get a team off there. So I think the balancing of it isn't perfect. I do really like the setting. It's just like a nice looking map, even though it's kind of dull, but I weirdly like that. Just very much looks like a bit of a war-torn space, and it's got some decent destruction and stuff. But yeah, I think it has too many flaws in terms of the balancing, and also, yeah, there's just some games, and I'm saying this as someone who enjoys sniping a lot. Like I would borderline call myself a sniper main, to be honest, but man, some of the matches in the beta, there was like 40 snipers in the lobby, and it can get a little bit much. It's obviously such an open map, and then if you've got choppers and jets and everything, it just sometimes it can be a bit of a clusterfuck, even though it's a kind of spread out map. So I think I'm going to put it C tier, which feels kind of harsh, but I think it's the type of map that if they do some balancing changes to it, and also balancing with the snipers and stuff like that, even for example, like getting some of the places you can get through, you shouldn't be able to get through. Little things like that, I think if they fix those up, it probably goes up here. And like I said, there are games when it's like really good, and I finish the match and I'm like, fuck, that's a good map. But then the next time I play it, I hate it. So it can be fixed by them with some tweaks, and hopefully that does happen. But for now, I think I got to leave it down in the C tier. Now, last but definitely not least, we've got one of the newer maps in Mirak Valley. And this is the biggest map in the game at launch, which I think a lot of people were probably interested to see how that played out, because obviously the rest of the maps, maybe excluding Firestorm, they're all pretty small. Even Liberation Peak it's actually fairly big, but it's quite linear, so it sometimes feels pretty small. But I think, honestly, this map plays really well. I was very, very pleasantly surprised with it, because I was kind of concerned it was going to be almost an overcorrection to the other maps where they're all super small and then this would be like too big. But I actually felt like the map flow and stuff was really good. And even though it's a big map and has some open areas, it's also got plenty of close quarters, and it played really well, not only on Conquest, but also on Breakthrough as well. So I think I'm going to put this one I think I actually put it in A tier, to be honest. This is maybe one that would be like in between these tiers, but I think A tier. I don't know, maybe I've got the recency bias here with having played this more recently than the others. And again, it's not like it's twice as good as these other maps. It's like they're all fairly close realistically, but I don't know, I really did like this map. I think it's just got a good mix, and it's good to see that they've made a big map that isn't like stupidly wide open and it's just like boring like some of the 2042 maps. This map, I was actually kind of shocked that this is the biggest map because it doesn't feel that big, and I mean that in a good way. I think if you want it to feel big, if you stay on the edge of the map and you're sniping or you're playing in jets or whatever, it probably does feel big. But if you don't want it to feel big, I think you can make it feel small by playing towards the center of the map and stuff. So yeah, I really like this map. I think it's a good layout. I also really like the vibe of it. This area you can see in the picture, I'll put some gameplay of that now. It reminds me actually a little bit of St. Quentin's Scar, where it's just like muddy and there's just like trenches and burned down trees and rubble and stuff. It just, I don't know, the vibe of that area of the map, especially, that's like where you start off in Breakthrough. That part of the map is really, really good. The center of the map has a cool vibe to it too. It's like construction, but there's just, yeah, there's kind of rubble all over the place. And it's just I don't know, it's just a really good map. So the two new maps that we have just recently previewed are making their way to the top, which I kind of didn't think they would. I actually thought all these maps were really good, and I kind of thought this would be closer to the bottom. I always knew Firestorm was going to be top tier, but yeah, Miraak Valley really surprised me, and I think it is definitely in my sort of top echelon of maps so far in Battlefield 6. So that is my overall ranking there, as you can see, at least as of right now. Obviously, once the game launches, maybe this will change a little bit and there'll be 3 new maps as well. So like I said, if you want to see an updated version of this, and I can continue doing that each season as we get new maps and stuff like that, then let me know down below, because obviously I'll just kind of gauge if you guys are interested or not. So leave your comments down below, and obviously leave comments with what you agree and disagree with too. There will no doubt be plenty of people roasting me in the comments, which I'm very excited to read. So feel free to leave those comments down below. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.